Hey guys, this is Communications. Welcome to my review of Airborne. Airborne is a 1998 film starring Steve Guttenberg and Sean Bean, as well as a few others. You have Colm Feore, and I think that's how you pronounce his last name, Colm Feore. He's been in a few other movies, and Kim Coates, who was in Amityville Curse, I believe, and he's a lot better in this than he is in that. Well, he's not. He just plays this character named Murdoch, who's kind of an asshole. That's pretty much it. And he just, it just doesn't seem like, it doesn't even seem like Kim Coates is even acting. It just seems like he's just being his normal self in this. Airborne is a movie I've been curious about for a while because it stars Steve Guttenberg and an action thriller. So yeah, Mahoney from Police Academy in an action thriller. And so that's Airborne. And if you're curious about this movie just to watch it because of the fact that it's got Steve Guttenberg in an action type movie, you might have a good time with it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I didn't hate this movie. I actually kind of liked it. As a B movie, as a low budget action thriller, I thought it was enjoyable enough. It was entertaining. I was entertained. I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize. I thought Steve Guttenberg was a capable, he was a B-movie badass, okay? He had no budget to work with. He did the best he could with his character, Bill McNeil. I had fun with his performance. He kind of bounced back and forth between this sort of raspy, sort of Snake Plissken type voice or trying to do his best Bruce Willis impersonation, then back, he went from that, then back to his normal Steve Guttenberg voice, and that was kind of distracting, but it didn't really bug me too much, because I just had fun with the character. I liked seeing Steve Guttenberg in this movie. I would have loved to have seen Steve Guttenberg be an action hero in a bigger budgeted flick. I think he could pull it off. I had fun with him. He seemed to have a lot of fun with this role, too. And I didn't mind the supporting cast, either. I didn't mind Torri Higginson as Sarah, who is a member of this team called Mac 1. The Mac 1 team that Steve Guttenberg's character, Bill, leads. I didn't mind their other guy, a member of the team, Phillip Akin, who played Romeo Cortez. I didn't mind him. He had some fun lines to give. Sean the Beanie Baby, Sean Bean is in this as a very lackluster villain who has barely no screen time, and he has like one line that's really corny. Like he shows up later in the film, and Steve Guttenberg and the team are like, well, how did you get here? Magic. And I'm like, yeah, magic. Good one, Sean. Good one, Beanie Baby. And his comeuppance wasn't that great. That was kind of lame, but I'll get into that soon enough. And I didn't mind also this guy, Mr. Samuels, who was this technician guy who was like he was a techno-geek guy. I didn't mind him either, played by David Fraser. And it's directed by Julian Grant, and he also helped write the screenplay. And Julian Grant, he directed one of the Prime Directives episodes. Looks like it. He's still doing directing. Well, that's cool. I don't think he's that bad. He directed some episodes of RoboCop Prime Directives. They're not the greatest, but, they had some moments. He directed a bunch of short movies, including one called Screw the Pepperoni. He directed a movie called The Defiled. Another one called Fall Away. These were in, 2010. Brian Shaw is in it. Fall Away. He directed a movie called Fuckload of Scotch Tape. I'm not kidding, it's called Fuckload of Scotch Tape. Fuckload of Scotch Tape. Holy shit. I'm curious about the movie just because there's a movie that actually exists that's called Fuckload of Scotch Tape. I think he directed something called Arkham Sanitarium Soul Eater. Fuckload of Scotch Tape, I guess, is also a crime drama and a musical, and it has a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb, And it's a musical neo-noir drama where a patsy is set up to take the fall for a kidnapping and leads to a murder. When the money he's paid is stolen, he embarks on a rampage of revenge. Interesting. Anyway, back to Airborne. It's nice to see he's still getting work. I don't think he's that talentless. There are some things I think he could not do, like stop with the slow motion porn. Seriously, why I'm saying slow motion porn is because there's a ton of slow motion shots in this movie in the type of sequences that don't need slow motion. Like Steve Guttenberg bending over, picking up a coin I think he dropped on the ground, and then getting back into a car in slow-mo. Will we really need that? Do I really need to see Steve Guttenberg bending over, his ass in the air, you know, then get up and get in a car? I didn't need to see that in slow motion. Nobody needs to see that in slow motion. Just trying to be kind of like Michael Bay, I guess, but not really pulling it off. And, but anyway, the film basically starts out with this laughable, more slow motion porn. There's this virus that's in this container with these, you know, balls that are straight ripped. I swear to God, I think they stole this prop from The Rock. Remember this virus? You know, the way the virus looked in the way the virus is stored in The Rock. You know, the movie, you know, with Nick Cage and Sean Connery, and you had them in this container, and they were like in spears. Well, it's the same shit in this movie. I swear to God, they stole the prop from The Rock. So they stole the virus from The Rock, and it's hidden in this container, and there's this guy working on it, and you see Sean the Beanie Baby on a phone talking to somebody, and so these mercenary guys come in, and they're coming in to steal this virus. But of course, before all that, you get the opening credits, which are laughable. The opening credits are so cheap. You just right off the bat, you know this movie is cheap. It's got a dime store budget. It's got nothing. It's barely got enough money to even pay anybody to act in it. And you have the titles that are zooming in, kind of Batman Forever style. And I'm like, great, they're doing that type of style. And an overbearing score that Christoph Beck did that's just so really over the top at points. Then the climax at the end of the film, it sounds like he just ripped off one of the chase themes from T2. And then you know, then you have a text crawl in the beginning of the movie that says, talks about the elite Mach 1 unit, and I'm like, okay, we didn't really need that. So we have a narrator reading off some information about the Mach 1 unit that you could just read yourself. And then they go in, and then you don't even start out with the Mach 1 unit. You start out with Sean Bean and his mercenaries stealing this virus. So they steal the virus, and then you get introduced to the Mach 1 team, which is kind of like a low-budget Expendables, kind of, because you have this guy who's the leader of the team, played by Colm Feore, who's asking, they fly this super high-tech jet, which looks like one of the jets that X-Men would fly around in, and it's just shitty CGI. There's a lot of shitty CGI in the first 20 minutes of the film that are really hard to watch, but laughable, and actually kind of add to the fun of the movie because they're so fucking terrible. It's hard not to laugh at them. And then Ed Wood would be proud of these CGI effects. So then basically what happens is you get introduced to the team, and you get introduced to Steve Guttenberg, and for some reason he starts out talking in low, you know, raspy tones, like he's Christian Bale's Batman. He's all like, what's the plan? You know, oh, we gotta do this. We gotta go over there. It's really funny to see Steve Guttenberg try to do that. And then he's got like scars on his face too, because you gotta know he's tough because he's got scars. And then you have the whole thing where, you know, he sounds like Batman enough, or, you know, or Nick Nolte in 48 Hours, and you have Nick Nolte to show up and be like, hey, where's Reggie? Reggie, where are you, Reggie? We got this mission to go. We got this mission to take care of. We gotta get the virus, Reggie. Yeah, you know, so then they actually make a Batman-themed pun. Like, I was making fun of this movie, and I was saying these sound like Batman. Christian Bale's Batman. Steve Guttenberg's doing his best, you know, Christian Bale Batman impersonation from, you know, The Dark Knight. And then this guy comes in and says, like, let's get ready to slide down the bat pole. I was like, wow. And then for some reason, I've never seen a movie do this. For some reason, like halfway, like 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, they start introducing the characters. So you see Steve Guttenberg, and then you see the title of the character's name, Bill McNeil, blah, 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 Act 1 leader, da-da-da, explosive expert. And then da-da-da-da, this character. Then it's like, what the Sarah, you know, Sarah Gemmel, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then you know, Romeo Cortez. And then you have Ron Simpson, team leader. You're like, what the fuck? Isn't this something you do at the end credits, not at the beginning of the movie? Anyway, it makes it feel like some failed TV pilot. It could have been a failed TV pilot for a TV show. I don't know. But anyway, what happens is their whole mission to get on the plane, they end up flying their X-Jet over up to Sean the Beanie Baby's plane. But he's not on it. The other mercenaries are on it. And they hook up to it, and they rappel onto it, and they use magnets that are in their gloves, which I thought was actually a cool idea. It's just such a low budget. It just looks like shit. They have a dime store budget to work with, but they were still willing to do something kind of cool and different, and I like that. There was a couple moments in the film that tried to do some kind of cool sort of inventive sort of ideas with a low budget. I like the idea of magnet gloves. It's kind of cool. So Steve Guttenberg's using these magnet gloves on the side of the airplane, trying to get into the plane, and he sounds just normally like normal Steve Guttenberg. He doesn't sound like Batman, you know, Bale's Batman while he's talking on the radio here, which is, I thought was funny because it like goes back and forth. But it ends up working in the long run because he's just, I think Steve Guttenberg portrayed this character, Bill McNeil, as like a parody of the action movie, you know, the action movie heroes. I really think he was doing a parody of, you know, the action film, you know, the typical type of action film lead, you know, that Bruce Willis or Stallone or Schwarzenegger would play. The deadpan sort of delivery. I don't think you barely ever saw him smile. I don't even remember seeing him smile in this movie. Just cold and dead-eyed. And so then he ends up finds a way, he gets on the plane, faces off with some guys, they get the virus, so the pilot wakes up, tries to go after them. He says McNeil's name, like he recognizes him. McNeil, he's going to shoot some guy, and I like him, McNeil, he's just like, you know, I don't think so, asshole, that punches him in the face. It was a really low-budget, cheap movie, but I had fun with Steve Guttenberg. And he punches the guy out, and ultimately they end up, they have to get out of the plane before it crashes. It's shitty, in all its shitty CGI glory, and they end up parachuting out of it just in time before it crashes into a mountain and just god-awful CGI. And then they end up getting in a hearing with the NCAA or the NCRA or some shit. I think that's what it was like, you know, not the NCAA, but it's some fancy name for their version of the CIA. And their leader, the guy who's heading it up, is Kim Coates, and he's upset, and he's accusing Steve Guttenberg of being in on this because why does this guy know his name? Know your name? I don't know. I've never seen him before, you know. And then I like the whole thing where he makes a joke to Cortez. He's all like, you know what? Cortez is like, you know, well, we're upstanding citizens. You know, we only let upstanding citizens, you know, into our team. It's like, so citizens of good character or something like that. And he's like, so why don't you invite Gandhi then? And he's like, he wouldn't pass the vision test. It's stupid, but I'm sorry. I cracked up at that. That was kind of funny. And then, you know, the team hangs out for a little bit at a bar, has some fun, and then ultimately Cortez gets killed. And I thought that was pretty. That was too bad. I like Cortez. He had some fun lines to deliver, but he got killed. And he was trying to fix somebody's car, and he got shot. And then you have a cool idea I liked, where Colm Feore and Steve Guttenberg are in this car. They're driving together, and they're trying to figure out, you know, what's going on. And they put a CD in, and the CD somehow takes over the computers that are inside their car and starts driving it like a harp from hell. And it's come on, you had people with magnet gloves, you know, climbing on the side of an airplane. I suspended my disbelief from, you know, the moment the movie started, so I was okay with that. It's not this so much realistic thing, but it was still kind of cool, you know. Took over the car and decently kind of decently edited and shot chase scene. Then after that, the car ends up, they end up rolling out of the car. Then it ends up careening off something and then crashing into the water and exploding. Of course, it's that type of movie. And they end up, because they were trying to get a race against time to go for Laura's character, because they thought she was getting set up too. They found out Cortez was dead, and she has a bomb in her apartment. But she ends up escaping. You don't see her escape. You just see her look at the phone. And she's calling the phone, answering the phone, talking to Steve Guttenberg, and she looks at she finds the bomb. She's got 2 seconds to get the hell out of the house, and she's like, ah! And then you see just the window explode. And they're like, is she dead? And then you find out, no, she's fine. But then you're like, how the hell did she get out of there? Did she just teleport her outside of the fucking building? Because you don't really, in 2 seconds to get out of that top floor of that apartment. But whatever, I'm not gonna do, this isn't the type of thing that you would see, what CinemaSins doing sins on, and they find a million sins. It's a low budget, cheap actioneer, action thriller. Action thriller in air quotes, because it's really not that thrilling, I have to admit. But I was entertained though still, because it was fun. It really didn't take itself too seriously. It knew it had no budget. It knew that it really couldn't do that much, but it tried to do the best with what it could, with what it had. And you had fun scenes where Steve Guttenberg goes up against Murdoch, not the same Murdoch from Rambo vs. Blood Part 2, but he goes up against, not Chandler's Napier. So he goes up against Murdoch, and Murdoch's being ass, and he's got a gun pointed to his head, because this is after basically what happens is, it's painted to be set up that they are the ones that stole the virus, because they had this whole plan where they're going to end up re-stealing the virus back. So they go into this place where the virus is held, and they steal it back. Sean Bean shows up, appears by magic, and that was actually a pretty decent effect here in this scene, where Steve Guttenberg and it's Laura's character, she shoots a laser and manages to make some liquid nitrogen pour out, and actually frees this one guy, and he frees him off, freezes him at where his feet, so his bottom half of his legs break off, and the rest of his body falls down and freezes. I thought it was actually a pretty decent effect for a low budget. His screaming was funny too. I thought it was Sean Bean who was screaming like a bitch. That's why it made me laugh even more, but it really wasn't him. He got away, and then he ends up shooting their leader. And then you have ridiculous slow motion porn again, where you shoot their leader, Colm Feore, and then you have Steve Guttenberg running in slow motion going, no! This is really bad. And so then, after all that, they get set up to make it look like they're the ones that stole the virus. So Steve Guttenberg thinks that it's Kim Coates' character being an ass, Murdoch. So Murdoch is to ask them, because they go to an apartment and try to hide out. They turn on the TV, find out that Steve Guttenberg's character Bill and his last remaining member of the team, Laura, they find out that they're set up while they're looking on the TV, and then you get a phone call, and it's Kim Coates saying, "Look out the window," and there they are, the FBI guys, NCRA or some shit, and the police or whatever, and well, let's talk. And I like the whole, Kim Coates is smoking a cigar, and I like how Steve Guttenberg has a gun pointed to his head, and he's all like, "What are you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" Bill is like, "I'm gonna blow your head off. I'm gonna blow your head clean off." Well, can you at least let me finish my cigar first? Come on, that's the kind of type of lines of dialogue you see in Last Action Hero. I had fun with that line. I could totally see some guy telling Jack Slater, "I'm gonna blow your head clean off. Can you at least let me finish my cigar first? Can you at least let me finish my cigar first?" Thank you. I could totally see that shit. So, anyway, I like that line of dialogue. And then, ultimately, you find out that Kim Coates just wanted to get them, into the office and tell them what's going on, set them up with enough supplies to try to catch Sean Bean. And the rest of the movie is they go to a hotel try to find out this guy who Sean Bean's trying to sell the virus to, and they find out that they end up locating Sean Bean at this airfield. So they go to this airfield. I like the line of dialogue they had before. It's like, we can't be driving around in this car. It screams government. You know, well, what are we going to do? How about we go in style? he points to a limo. So they get in a limo and drive to the airfield. And then there's like a guard there. And Laura's asking Bill, like, what are we going to do? And it's like, he hands her a taser. It's like, taser. It says taser. He hands her a taser. And then they pull up next to him. And then it's like, and she's like, oh, hi. And then she just tases his ass. And then they drive into the fucking airfield. Come on, you gotta have some fun with that. They drive in the airfield, and there's a little bit of a shootout. Steve Guttenberg takes 2 guns, shoots some guys. Nothing really fancy, because they didn't have any budget to work with. Really, I would have loved to see what PM Entertainment would have done with this plot. They might have been able to add a lot more explosions, probably even better gunplay, with probably an equal amount of money. And so, I don't know if my camera is messing up or not. I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know with this camera. But anyway, so it goes to 2 guns a little bit. Even the nerdy guy gets on. They actually shoot some guys. There's actually some blood squibs, which that was kind of cool to see. And then they find out in a twist that the French guy, because the guy, you know, Sean Bean was going to sell the virus to was some French guy, and the French guy ends up shooting Sean Bean. So it was lame. You know, Steve Guttenberg. I like the bit that Steve Guttenberg had before Sean Bean had the gun to his head. He's like, "You're not gonna do anything. I'm gonna shoot." And it's like, "You gotta count it. You killed 2 of my best friends. You gotta count it 2. You gotta, you know, 1, 2." And it was like, "No, don't shoot me." I didn't mind that. It was just the way he delivered the line of dialogue. And then what happens in a twist, you find out that the French guy, the merchant guy, is actually their leader. It's actually Colm Feore. He was the bad guy all along. Simpson was the bad guy all along. So I really like this exchange. But what the fuck was that? Seriously? Did you see that? The camera just had a fucking epileptic fit. It just like faded in and out like a bitch. I hope it recorded it. I don't want to do this shit again. But anyway, I hope I don't sound like Zardoz either. I hate that. I hate you, Zardoz. Anyway, it is a pretty shitty movie. But anyway, back to Airborne. This one scene that I really like is really sold me on, you know, the enjoyability factor of this movie. It's a pretty, I thought it was a pretty kind of badass one-liner. So you have the bad guy, he starts explaining to, you know, this is what you're going to do. You're going to let me get onto this plane, you're going to let me get on this plane, and I'm going to get out of here. And then I love how Steve Guttenberg's line I thought was great. Not fucking likely. That's always something. That's totally something you can see Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Willis, or Dirty Harry, or even Clint Eastwood or Charles Bronson say to the bad guy. Not fucking likely. So he gets on the plane anyway, and they chase after the limo, and Steve Guttenberg gets his metal, his magnet gloves on, and leaps onto. Really shitty job though, because they didn't hire good stuntmen. So he leaps onto the plane, and he's holding on to it, and there's a bunch of people trying to chase the plane, and ultimately it ends where Steve Guttenberg gets on the plane, and he's like, "Can we at least let flip for it for good luck?" Because that's something that they would do, with the team, is flip a coin. So he flips a coin, and Laura ends up shooting their leader, who isn't really their leader anymore. He's a bad guy. Shoots him through the window of the plane, which was kind of lame. I really would have rather if Steve Guttenberg had the final shot, shot him in the head or something, or grabbed that gun that he wanted to shoot the guys who stole the virus earlier in the film. But she's like, "No, the virus!" And then he's just like, pow. I wanted to actually be able to use that gun, but no, that's not what happened. And then the bad guy's dead. Then you find out through another twist that the virus that they saved isn't really the real virus. It's a decoy because they wanted to weed out the mole. And then I love how Steve Guttenberg's like, "I still don't like you, Murdoch. And he's like, well, you know, well, that's whatever. It doesn't matter, you know. It's all part of the job. And the only thing that would make that scene the whole... Because then ultimately, the end of the movie is Steve Guttenberg and the rest of the people just leave, walk away, while Kim Coates is just there standing like a dumbass in the runway. And it would have been better, like, if you had the type of ending like from Leviathan, where Steve Guttenberg would walk up to him and was like, I still don't like you, Murdoch. I was like, well, I don't like you either. Pow! Then Steve Guttenberg just punches him in the face. And then he just punches him in the face and be like, I don't like you. And then just walk away. That would be badass. But as it is, it was entertaining. I'm sorry, I can't hate Airborne. It did start off pretty pitiful, though, with the effects. Some really shitty, piss-poor CGI. And it was really laughable in the beginning. Like, you had the bad guys were walking around with, like, masks that made them look like bugs. And then they had these really heavy breathing sound effects. So it was like, oh, crap, it's the return of the breather. It's Student Bodies 2. It was enjoyable. I did enjoy myself. As you can see, I got a smile on my face, so it wasn't that boring. Even though I did take 2 separate times to watch it. Tried to watch it late last night, and I just couldn't do it. So I watched the rest of it recently. But it's worth one watch. If you are curious about this movie because Steve Guttenberg is in it, check it out. If that's the main reason why you want to see it, check it out. He has a decent amount of stuff to do. There's one little shootout he has in a hotel room. He has a little bit of gunplay at the end. He has the fun lines of dialogue. I thought the whole, you know, not fucking likely, or, you know, I'm gonna blow your head clean off. You know, I didn't mind, you know, his line delivery. You know, he's trying to do his best Dirty Harry, or Snake Plissken, or Bruce Willis, because at some points he was kind of reminding me of that. I don't think he really was trying to do Batman. It's just the kind of thing that came across to me at points. But like I said, it does kind of cut it in and out. So I guess he chooses his best moments to do his best Dirty Harry. But anyway, I had fun with the movie. I'd be lying if I didn't. I think it's a lot better than a 3.0. It's a 3.0 and a 10 on IMDb. This movie had a low budget. Low budget. So going into this film, if you ever decide to check it out, you got to give it at least that. It had no budget to work with. So there were certain things that it was just going to be cheap and look cheap. But, you know, it's a plot that's been done before. But I enjoyed it. I had fun because of Steve Guttenberg. That's pretty much it. I enjoyed it because I enjoyed Steve Guttenberg. But anyway, I really don't know what to say about Airborne except it was a rated out of 5 stars. I would give it 3. 3 out of 5. It was enjoyable enough. It ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just a so-so film. But I enjoyed it enough as a one-time, you know, thing because of Steve Guttenberg. It was fun to see Steve Guttenberg in this type of role. And, you know, had some fun one-liners. I really liked the not fucking likely scene. But anyway, thanks for watching my review of Airborne. And I'll see you guys later. See ya.